Fortunately, there is no more need to discuss if global warming is real and if humans really are the reason for it. By now, it is a consensus that climate change is the most urgent ecological issue of our time. But for some reason, almost everyone just continues their normal life and hardly anyone does something against it. The reason why I am doing this video is to raise awareness about how we are destroying the most beautiful and essential parts of our environment. And we are doing so consciously and irreversibly. It would take thousands of hours to explain all the consequences of human greenhouse gas emissions. Here I will focus on their impact on coral reefs. To anticipate it, the impact is devastating. But let's first make clear why coral reefs are so important. Hardly anywhere on this planet you will find more living beings per area than in coral reefs. You will also struggle to find a place where there are more different species in one place than in coral reefs. Corals live in close cooperation with the other living beings in coral reefs: fishes, anemones, mollusks, and many more. They exchange all sorts of nutrients to the benefit of every creature involved. This means that many other organisms' survival depends on corals. Besides that, coral reefs protect coastal areas from storms and waves, and thereby from erosion. This is paramount because other species like turtles or birds need the beaches to breed their offspring. Coral reefs before a coast also prevent cities from storm damage. It is obvious that coral reefs have a significant role. In order to protect them, we need to understand how they are damaged. CO2 emissions affect corals in two ways. The first one is that they contribute to global warming. If the sea heats up, corals are at higher risk of bleaching. Bleaching means that corals are damaged because they can't cope with too high temperatures. If you are interested in this topic, I would recommend you another video on this channel. Link is in the video description. The other problem is that CO2 emissions lead to ocean acidification. When carbon dioxide meets water, a bunch of chemical reactions take place. One of their products are hydronium ions. A general problem is that they make the water more acidic, and this impairs many metabolic processes in all of its inhabitants. It is incredible, but humanity somehow managed to lower the average pH, a measurement of acidity, of the world's ocean by 0.1. In comparison, if this pH of your blood changes by 0.01, you are dead before you were able to say acid. Another effect of those reactions is that carbonate ions are transformed into bicarbonate ions. Corals need carbonate ions to build up the skeleton of their polyps, but they cannot use bicarbonate ions for this. The more CO2 enters the ocean, the more difficulties corals have to build their skeleton. So the coral skeleton becomes weaker and breaks more easily if they are hit by waves. It is also possible that corals maintain the density of their skeleton by investing more energy into building it, on the cost of reproduction and growth. Both options lead to shrinking coral reefs and, if this continues, to their extinction, especially if we consider that corals are under the combined stress of bleaching and ocean acidification. So we have seen that we have a problem here. But to what extent will it reach? If mankind had completely stopped emitting greenhouse gases in 2007, coral reefs would probably have become more vulnerable to water quality, but they would probably have survived. However, if we continue our current activity for another 30 years, most coral reefs will probably have vanished and look more or less like this: a pile of lime crumbles. At least half of all the other organisms that live there will be extinct. This endangers the whole marine food chain, with fishers at its end. Besides, if we no longer have coral reefs before the shores, coastal areas are even more endangered by the storms that will still increase in frequency and intensity as climate change continues. All of this sounds horrible, but it was published in 2007, so until now surely someone has made an effort and fixed the problem, isn't it? Unfortunately not. For some reason, nothing has happened. CO2 emissions have even increased since then. But we still have a chance to avoid the catastrophe. But only a small one, and only if we take action immediately and make an enormous effort.